The quiet moment before everything slips arrives without drama. Nothing obvious changes. Your posture stays steady. Your voice still sounds measured. From the outside, this moment looks like every other moment you've survived. Inside, though, there is a subtle tightening, as if something is being held just a little too firmly. You move through familiar motions, completing tasks, responding when required, maintaining the shape you've learned to keep. It feels controlled, almost calm, but the calm is brittle. It costs more than it used to, though you rarely stop to notice the price. There is a sense of balance that must not be disturbed. You keep things level by staying quiet, by not leaning too hard into any feeling, by choosing restraint again and again. This restraint has worked before. It has kept life moving. It has kept you functional. Yet beneath the smooth surface, there is constant monitoring, a private effort to prevent anything from spilling out. You tell yourself, this is normal. You tell yourself this is strength. Still, something feels thin. The space inside feels smaller than it once did, as if there is less room to breathe. Thoughts brush against emotions and immediately pull back. You don't fall apart. You don't even feel close to it. But there is a faint awareness that the quiet you're maintaining is not empty. It is crowded. And in this controlled, familiar inner world, the tension isn't loud enough to demand attention. It only waits, patient, for the moment when holding everything together finally becomes impossible. The weight you learned to carry alone didn't arrive all at once. It accumulated slowly, layered moment by moment, expectation by expectation. Early on, you realized that showing too much only complicated things. Silence felt cleaner, containment felt safer. So you learned to hold your reactions inward, to process privately, to rely on yourself even when it hurts. Over time, this became less of a choice and more of a reflex. You carried emotions the way others carried bags. Close, managed, unseen. When something heavy happened, you adjusted your grip. When another responsibility appeared, you made room for it. You rarely spoke about the load, because naming it felt unnecessary, maybe even indulgent. You told yourself that everyone carries something. Yours just happened to be invisible. This self-reliance brought a certain pride. You didn't need much from anyone. You didn't disrupt rooms with your feelings. You adapted. But the cost was subtle and cumulative. Each unspoken emotion settled somewhere inside, stacking quietly. You became skilled at enduring without processing, surviving without releasing. The silence that protected you also sealed things in. Eventually, the weight stopped feeling like something you carried and started feeling like something you were. It shaped how you moved, how you listened, how you responded. You didn't question it because it felt familiar. Carrying alone had worked for so long. You didn't realize that the effort itself was changing you, that the constant holding was slowly becoming heavier than anything you'd learned to carry. Becoming the one who never breaks didn't start as a performance. It began as a solution. Staying composed kept things predictable. Being reliable kept you valued. Showing calm reassured others, and, in return, reduced the demands placed on you. Over time, this steadiness became your role, and eventually, your identity. You were the person who could handle things, who stayed rational, who didn't unravel under pressure. This identity felt protective. If you didn't break, nothing had to change. You didn't need to explain yourself. You didn't need to risk being misunderstood. Emotional visibility felt dangerous, while endurance felt controlled. So you refined it. You learned how to redirect emotion into productivity, how to convert discomfort into competence. People trusted you because you appeared unaffected. But identities built on endurance are fragile in quiet ways. The more you were known as someone who never falters, the harder it became to admit when something hurt. Vulnerability threatened the image that kept you safe. So you stayed consistent, even when it meant ignoring parts of yourself. You chose stability over honesty, strength over softness. Eventually, the role stopped feeling like something you played, and started feeling like something you had to maintain. You weren't just holding yourself together anymore. You were holding an expectation together. And beneath that expectation, there was a growing fear that if you ever let go, there would be nothing left to replace it. The signs that were softly pushed aside didn't announce themselves as warnings. They arrived as small shifts, easy to rationalize, a tiredness that sleep didn't fix, a distance in conversations you used to enjoy, a quiet irritability that surfaced without a clear cause. You noticed these changes, but you framed them as temporary, manageable, unimportant. There was a growing sense of disconnection, as if you were watching your own life through a thin layer of glass. Feelings came muted. Joy felt distant. Sadness stayed contained but unresolved. You told yourself this was just how adulthood felt, how responsibility worked. You adjusted rather than questioned. Occasionally, awareness flickered. A moment alone where the weight felt heavier than usual. A thought that lingered longer than it should have. You sensed that something inside needed attention, but attention felt risky. Slowing down meant noticing too much. So you stayed busy. You stayed composed. The mind is skilled at minimizing discomfort. When control feels necessary, you reframed exhaustion as discipline, emotional numbness as maturity. You muted internal signals, because responding to them threatened the structure you relied on. The warnings didn't disappear. They simply went unheard. Each ignored signal became another quiet compromise, not dramatic enough to force change, not painful enough to stop you, just enough to deepen the habit of holding on. And slowly, without announcing itself, the cost of maintaining control continued to rise. Holding a shape that's already fracturing requires constant effort. From the outside, you still look intact. You meet expectations. You respond appropriately. But inside, the structure feels unstable, like something held together by pressure rather than balance. Private moments reveal the strain. Long pauses, shallow breaths, a mind that won't settle even in silence. You start noticing the contrast. Public composure, private exhaustion, external steadiness, internal unrest. The gap between these two worlds widens, and maintaining it becomes its own form of labor. You're no longer just holding emotions back. You're holding the entire shape of yourself in place. There are moments alone where the fractures become visible. A sudden wave of heaviness with no clear source. A memory resurfacing without warning. A sense that something is misaligned, even if you can't name what it is. You acknowledge these moments briefly, then smooth them over. There's no time to fall apart. There's no space for collapse. The effort shows up in subtle ways. Your body tightens more often. Your patience thins. Your inner dialogue grows harsher, more insistent. You push yourself to keep going, because stopping feels dangerous. If you stop, the shape might not hold. So you keep adjusting, reinforcing weak points, pretending stability is still natural. You don't realize that what you're maintaining is already compromised. The fractures aren't visible yet, but they are spreading quietly, waiting for the moment when effort alone will no longer be enough. When the inner walls start giving way, it doesn't feel like a sudden event. It feels like erosion. The boundaries that once kept everything contained begin to soften. Emotions leak through in unfamiliar ways. Thoughts feel heavier, harder to organize. The space inside feels crowded, compressed. You sense a loss of reliability in your own control. The strategies that once worked now require more energy and deliver less relief. Distraction fails faster. Logic feels thinner. The internal walls that separated feeling from function begin to bend under the pressure they've carried for too long. There is a quiet panic. In realizing that containment is no longer guaranteed, you try to reinforce it, working harder, staying busier, thinking your way out. But the pressure keeps building. The internal space narrows, and everything feels closer to the surface. This stage is marked by vigilance. You monitor yourself constantly, watching for cracks, fearing exposure. But monitoring adds weight, and the system is already overloaded. The walls don't collapse all at once. They weaken unevenly, unpredictably. There's a growing sense that something is approaching, though you can't say what. Control feels less like a strength, and more like a fragile agreement you're struggling to uphold. And beneath that struggle is the awareness that once the walls fall, there may be no way to rebuild them in the same form again. The moment everything breaks through is not dramatic in the way people imagine. It's heavy, disorganizing, consuming. There's no clear narrative, no clean release, just an overwhelming surge of what has been held back for too long. Thoughts blur, emotions arrive, without order or permission. It feels exposing, not because others see it, but because you do. You are confronted with the depth of what you've been carrying all at once. The internal collapse strips away the familiar sense of control, leaving you raw and disoriented. You don't recognize yourself in this state. There is a sense of failure attached to the release, even though nothing has gone wrong. The structure you relied on simply reached its limit, but it doesn't feel neutral. It feels like a loss. Loss of composure, loss of identity, loss of the version of yourself that knew how to hold everything together. The release doesn't resolve anything immediately. It is unsettling. It interrupts. It leaves you exposed to feelings you never learned how to organize. The world keeps moving, but you feel paused inside it, trying to understand what just happened. This moment isn't cleansing. It's consuming. It doesn't offer clarity. It removes the armor you didn't realize you were wearing, and in its place is an unfamiliar vulnerability that you don't yet know how to carry. Living without the old armor is disorienting. The absence of constant control feels like emptiness, even though it's simply space you've never occupied before. You feel exposed, unsure of how to move, without the familiar tension holding you upright. Emotional rawness replaces numbness, and it's unsettling. There's confusion about who you are now. The identity built on endurance no longer fits, but nothing has replaced it yet. You move through days, feeling unanchored, sensitive to things that once barely registered. The loss of internal orientation feels almost as heavy as the collapse itself. You might search for the old steadiness, wishing you could put the armor back on, but it doesn't return. In the same way, what once felt natural now feels forced. Control has lost its reliability, and that loss is frightening. In this aftermath, there's no clear lesson, no immediate growth, just the quiet work of existing without the structure that defined you. You notice yourself more, feel more, react more honestly, even when it's uncomfortable. The emptiness where control used to live isn't a void, it's unstructured space. But without guidance, it feels unsafe. You are learning, slowly, what it means to inhabit yourself without armor, without certainty, without the familiar weight that once held everything together. Strength without the mask feels unfamiliar and uncertain. It doesn't look like endurance. It doesn't announce itself. It exists quietly, in moments of honesty, rather than control. After collapse, strength becomes less about holding and more about allowing, even when allowance feels unsafe. There is no rush to redefine yourself, no pressure to rebuild quickly. The absence of armor invites a different relationship with your inner world, one that doesn't rely on suppression or performance. This strength is tentative, uneven, and often invisible. You may notice that being without the mask requires more awareness, more presence, less certainty. It asks you to stay with discomfort rather than contain it. This isn't a resolution, it's a shift in how you relate to what you feel. The collapse didn't erase your resilience, it changed its shape. What remains is quieter, less impressive, but more honest. Strength here is not about never breaking. It's about not abandoning yourself. When you do, there are no answers waiting at the end of this process. Only space, only stillness, and in that stillness, a chance to listen to what was once held back, not to fix it, not to master it, just to acknowledge it, without the mask, without the armor, and without the need to hold everything together anymore.